At a networking event, my team lead Slurred, she's basically here for optics, they needed someone who looks good on brochures, not someone who actually knows anything. I bit my lip as he raised his glass to me and shouted, "Cheers to our favorite pretty face with an empty head." Instead of arguing, I politely introduced myself to the CEO's wife, who was also in the room, and by Monday morning, his nameplate was gone. I work at a mid-sized tech company in Chicago, near the West Loop. I've been there 3 years now, working as a UX designer. I like my job. I'm not flashy, not someone who brags, but I care about doing good work and I do it well. I don't bother with gossip or cliques. I show up, do the job, try to stay out of the mess. But no matter how good you are, there's always someone who sees what they want to see. For me, that was Wes. He was my team lead. The kind of guy who talks with his hands, name drops business schools, and always makes sure you know he's on track for director. Early 40s, expensive shoes, loud voice. He had a habit of making jokes that weren't really jokes. You know the kind, half a smile, but watching you too closely to see how you'd react. The first week I joined his team, he told me during a one-on-one, "You've got a great look for client meetings. Don't worry, we'll coach you through the technical stuff." I said nothing. When we did our first presentation together, he smiled and told the client, "Daniela's here to keep things from getting too boring," like I was some kind of decoration. Again, I said nothing. I started keeping a folder. Just little things. Comments. Who was there? Times he forgot to CC me on emails or asked me to take notes when we were the same level as others in the room. I didn't know what I'd do with it. I just needed to feel like I wasn't imagining things. Then came the company's spring networking event. It was in a hotel downtown, big ballroom, white tablecloths, soft jazz in the background, free drinks flowing. People were dressed up. I wore a fitted black dress, nothing over the top, and low heels. I didn't feel like dressing up for anyone, but I wanted to look put together. I hadn't even finished my first drink when it happened. Wes was already tipsy. Red in the face, that lazy grin he always got when he thought people were laughing with him. A few of the other team leads were around, plus some folks from marketing. He held up his glass and said it loud enough for the table, and for several nearby conversations, to hear, "She's basically here for optics, they needed someone who looks good on brochures, not someone who actually knows anything." People laughed, tight, awkward laughs. I froze. I thought maybe I'd misheard. But then he turned to me, lifted his glass higher, and shouted, "Cheers to our favorite pretty face with an empty head." It hit me in the chest like a punch. I felt the heat rush to my ears. A couple of coworkers glanced down at their shoes. One guy awkwardly smiled like he wasn't sure if he should laugh or say something. No one said anything. I didn't speak. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. I looked across the room and saw her, Meredith. I'd seen her before at events. Older, maybe late 50s. Silver hair, soft voice, carried herself like someone who didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I knew she was the CEO's wife, but I also knew she was more than that. She had a background in communications, and rumor was she was a silent partner when the company started. I walked straight to her. Waited until she wasn't speaking to anyone. Then I smiled and introduced myself. "Hi, I'm Daniela. I work in UX on Team 12. I just wanted to say thank you for hosting. The event's lovely." She smiled. Nodded. Then I said, very calmly, "I wanted to let you know that my team lead just toasted to me in front of our group by saying I'm just a pretty face with an empty head and was only hired for how I look on brochures." Her smile dropped. Her eyes narrowed just a bit. I didn't elaborate. Didn't add emotion. Just told her exactly what happened. She asked who he was. I pointed. She gave a slow nod, then said, "Thank you for telling me." That was it. I walked out without speaking to anyone else. Took a cab home. Cried a little when I got inside. Not because I was hurt, because I was furious. Not just at him, but at everyone who stood there and said nothing. On Monday, Wes's nameplate was gone. No email. No announcement. Just an empty office. I heard later through someone in HR that Meredith had made a few calls Sunday morning. The CEO reevaluated a few things. There was a pattern of behavior that had been quietly tolerated until now. I guess what he did to me wasn't the first time, just the last straw. I kept my head down the rest of the week. But something changed after that. People stopped interrupting me in meetings. I got invited to bigger projects. And a month later, I got a raise. I didn't ask for revenge. I didn't yell. I just told the right person at the right time. And I think that scared the hell out of them more than anything. After Wes disappeared, things felt different. At first, it was subtle. People started including me in emails without me having to ask. I got real design work instead of just polishing other people's ideas. But there was also tension. Some folks avoided eye contact. Others whispered when I walked by. 3 days after Wes's last day, I got pulled into a meeting with HR. A woman named Karen, that's really her name, sat me down. She smiled like she practiced in a mirror. "I just want to check in," she said. "No pressure, just making sure you feel supported." I nodded. "I do. Thank you." But then she asked, "Did you feel unsafe before this happened? Had you ever considered filing a formal complaint?" I said no. I told her I had been collecting notes but hadn't decided what to do with them. She smiled again, wider this time, almost too wide. "Well, we're taking it very seriously. But just so you know, not everyone viewed the situation the same way." That caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "Just. From a team culture perspective, some employees felt your reaction was a bit calculated." That word stuck in my chest. Calculated. I left that meeting with my jaw tight. I wasn't expecting a parade, but I also didn't expect to be treated like I did something wrong for defending myself. The next week, I noticed something strange. 2 junior designers I'd mentored, Holly and Max, stopped replying to my Slack messages. One of them, Holly, started copying our new team lead on everything, even simple questions. By Friday, I heard from someone in DevOps that a rumor was going around. That I'd been sleeping with the CEO. That's why Wes got fired. I felt sick. I wanted to scream. Instead, I printed out my little folder of notes, every comment, every witness, every timestamp, and walked it right into HR. This time, I didn't smile. I laid the folder on Karen's desk and said, "If I hear that rumor one more time, I'll walk this to a lawyer." She turned pale. But the rumor didn't stop. If anything, it got worse. And then, just when I thought it might die down, I found something in my inbox one morning. An anonymous email. No subject line. No text. Just a single screenshot. It was from someone's internal Slack. It showed Max sending a message to a private group chat, pretty sure she just get her way into a raise. Good for her. I'd do the same if I had her tits. I stared at that screen for 5 full minutes. Then I downloaded it, printed it out, and slipped it into my desk drawer. Something told me to wait. Because someone was about to find out that I wasn't just the pretty face they thought I was. I didn't go straight to HR with the Slack screenshot. Not yet. I'd learned something important: HR doesn't exist to protect you. It exists to protect the company. If they could twist things and make me seem too reactive, they'd do it in a heartbeat. So I waited. I started paying attention. Listening more closely in the break room. Watching who left meetings together. Noticing whose screens turned off when I walked by. And I started talking. Quietly, carefully. There was one person I trusted, Carmen, from finance. We weren't best friends, but but we'd bonded during a holiday party the year before over how dumb the company's expense policy was. She was sharp, observant, and hated Wes just as much as I did. I showed her the screenshot. Her mouth dropped open. Then she said, "That's not the only one." She pulled up her phone and showed me a series of messages someone had sent her anonymously a week ago. All from the same Slack group. Same disgusting tone. Same people, Max, Holly, and another back-end dev named Curtis. They had a whole private chat where they joked about who was climbing the ladder horizontally and how HR probably gave her a medal for crying on command. I felt like I'd swallowed glass. So I made a choice. I started documenting again, this time smarter. Screenshots, yes, but also dates, reactions, who said what in meetings. I asked Carmen to help. We found a few more people who had received similar messages but stayed quiet because they didn't want to rock the boat. And then I made another choice. I emailed Meredith. Not through her husband. Not through the company. Through the alumni contact page of the nonprofit she chaired. I wrote a short, clear message. "Hi Meredith. I'm reaching out privately because I believe a situation within the company has gotten worse, not better, after the recent leadership change. Some employees are spreading harmful and untrue rumors about my character, and I now have written proof. I don't want to escalate unless I absolutely have to, but I also won't allow harassment to go unchecked. I thought you'd want to know before this becomes a bigger problem, for me, and for the company." I didn't expect her to respond. She replied in 6 minutes. "Thank you for trusting me. Please send me everything." So I did. Every screenshot. Every Slack message. The names. The dates. I included what HR said to me, the rumors, the veiled threats about being calculated. 2 days later, 3 people were placed on administrative leave. The email came from legal, not HR. A week after that, HR had a restructure. Karen's name disappeared from the directory. Curtis submitted his resignation. Holly locked her Twitter account and removed her job title from LinkedIn. Max? He was still there. But quiet. Too quiet. And that's when things took another turn. A man I'd never met showed up in our office one Monday. Tall, bald, quiet. Introduced himself as external counsel. Sat in the conference room all day with the door closed. Later that week, Carmen told me something that made my stomach twist. Max was claiming I hacked into his Slack to fake the screenshots. He was trying to flip it. He said I was bitter about the office rumors and wanted revenge after Wes got fired. They were trying to make me the aggressor. I knew what this meant. They were going to try to make me look unstable. They didn't just want me quiet. They wanted me gone. After I heard what Max was trying to pull, something inside me snapped. I had done everything the right way. I'd stayed quiet. I'd gone through the correct channels. I'd waited. Collected proof. Stayed professional. And still, they were trying to destroy me. So I stopped waiting. I met with an attorney. I didn't go to one of those big billboard firms. I found a woman named Stephanie who worked out of a small office near Logan Square. She was sharp, no nonsense, and had handled employment cases before. She looked through my folder, scrolled through the screenshots, and said, "They messed with the wrong person." We filed the paperwork that week. Hostile work environment. Defamation. Retaliation. Word got out fast. You could feel the tension shift like a storm cloud rolled in. Legal tried to schedule a mediation but I refused. I told them to send everything through my lawyer. Meredith sent me one message during that time. "Whatever you need, I'm behind you." Then came the interviews. The company brought in an external investigation team, one of those firms that specializes in culture audits. They didn't just talk to people on my team. They pulled chat logs, reviewed access history, even brought in IT. It all came out. Every joke. Every slur. Every private message. And then the part one hadn't known, Wes had been under an informal watch list for months after 2 other women complained about him. HR buried it both times. Karen had even sat in on one of those interviews. She'd covered for him. Turns out Max and Holly had been part of a little inner circle that protected him. Curtis too. They passed information, edited meeting notes to make him look better, and made sure any issues got handled internally. They thought they were untouchable. Until they weren't. The company settled with me out of court. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough. Enough for me to walk away and breathe again. Enough to put a down payment on a condo. Enough to know I didn't have to stay quiet ever again. Max was fired. So was Holly. Curtis vanished from the company directory. Karen? She didn't just lose her job, she was formally reported to the state licensing board for unethical practices. And Wes? Turns out his fancy reputation didn't survive the stain of dismissed for cause. He tried to start his own consulting firm. It went nowhere. Too many burned bridges. Too many whispers. But here's the part that still keeps me up sometimes. I waited too long. I saw the signs early. I heard the little comments. Felt the way they looked at me like I didn't belong in the room. And I said nothing. 4 months. Maybe if I'd spoken up earlier, someone else wouldn't have been hurt. Maybe if I had walked into HR that first month with my folder, it wouldn't have needed to get this far. That's on me. But I'll never make that mistake again. And neither will they. Because now, when someone at that company tries to make a joke at someone else's expense, people go quiet. They remember what happened to Wes. To Max. To all of them. And to me, the pretty face with the empty head who turned out to be the one holding all the receipts.